about 16, I won this thing called BAFTA's Young Game Designers Award. It was actually at Eurogamer 2010, I guess. The lead writer at Splash Damage, Ed Stern, was like doing some talks on BAFTA Young Game Designers, and it was like a whole initiative where people could come up with ideas for games in the form of a pitch document and explain why they wanted to make certain games, why there's certain choices being made. I submitted one which was actually sort of terrible, called Hamster's Accidental World Domination, and it won. It was sort of, I think it was just on the back of I'd spent quite a lot of time explaining how it would be very cheap to make. It also dealt with things like sort of feminism and things like that, and it was sort of like a platformer which was studying how platformers worked and why they worked that certain way, and especially in terms of gender representation. And that just launched me way further than I would have anticipated. As a result of that, I got to spend some time at EA Games learning about how they made games. And I think the idea was that I was supposed to see how cool it was, and then EA would like try and get me interested in a job or something. But while the people there were actually really happy, no one had any creative freedom. And I think that was the point where I was like, this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to be stuck in a situation where if I want to do something interesting or cool, or I have a neat idea, I can't do that. For me, I think the moment when games clicked was before I even had a games console. It sounds stupid now, but like it wasn't until I was about 8 years old where I got a proper games console. But all the other kids had one, and it really, really bothered me. So games always seem like this really magical thing, like they're sort of out of bounds, and like they could be bad. You can lose your whole life, and then you can be anything you want. My mum always played it up to me like that. Like, don't play games; they'll take over your life. To be fair to her, she was right. Like she was completely right on the money. I was never really good at reading stuff or like watching stuff. I always had trouble getting information into my head. But this very kinesthetic medium, instantly I was like, I get this. Like, I'm learning really, really fast. This feels really good. So it clicked very early for me. The game that really made me sort of think I should do this for a living was Jak 2 Renegade, which I played when I was like 10. It was the game which had everything I wanted in a game in it. Like, it was everything I loved. It had like these really wacky characters. It had characters saying crap, which was mind-blowing when you're that age. It had gunplay, it had platforming, it had skateboarding, it had like all these cool things. And it was that game which unfortunately gets you the idea that like, hey, I could make a game with loads of stuff in it. And you can't, there's no way. Like, you're gonna have to trim it down, you're gonna have to cut ideas out. Pretty much ever since I left like primary school, I've felt like, and it sounds like super sappy, but like I felt my childhood like slowly getting away from me, and I hate it. I really can't stand it. So like I spent a lot of time in my teenage years, people were like trying to get you to smoke or like drink or like go out or anything like that. I never liked it, and I couldn't figure out why, and I kept just trying to figure out what was it about childhood that made me enjoy it so much. And it took me years to figure out that it's just discovering stuff. Everything's new, everything's big, everything's cool and interesting and awe-inspiring, and your mind's constantly getting bigger because you're seeing all of this amazing stuff. I want to make games about that, I think. Like, I want to make games which make me feel like a kid again and give you that sense of, I've never seen this before, but it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. Something which makes you feel young. My sort of elevator pitch for 10 Second Ninja is, it's a blisteringly fast action platformer game with a sort of puzzly twist, in that you have 10 seconds to eliminate all of the Nazi robots from space in the level, and you have long range and short range attacks. So depending on how you manage those, you can like finish a level in like 5 seconds, or you can finish it in 2 seconds. So it sort of has this puzzle element there where you're trying to get the best time possible, and you're trying to compete with people on leaderboards and get your like best star rating, and basically turn it into like a very finely tuned dance sort of thing, where you know exactly what you need to do and where, and it's just about doing it as best you can in a very short period of time, which gives it its very addictive quality, because the maximum amount of time you can lose is 10 seconds. So there's no reason why you wouldn't start again, and then you'll be there for hours. And that's sort of the hook, that's the gimmick. 10 Second Ninja is kind of a mess in terms of how it's been developed. Everything's in the wrong place, everything was done in the wrong order. It was developed completely backwards, only now do I think that it's sort of good. Like, I think there was actually a point like last Christmas where I got sort of drunk at the One Life Left Christmas party and started like bitching to another developer. I was just like, I hate this game so much, I really just can't stand it. But I just kept working on it because I don't want to not release it. It's the biggest thing that indies do is they stop making stuff, and I need to get this game out. And it's only now that I'm sort of looking at it and I can see why it's good. I can see why people would enjoy it. This has been my learning project. I think like most coders and designers and stuff like that have their first few projects which aren't very good. They'll do like 10 projects and then like the 11th one will be really, really good. All of those projects are in 10-Second Ninja. Like everything I've learned about programming a game is in this thing. It's sort of actually kind of depressing how I came with the idea of 10-Second Ninja. I was tired of trying to make projects that I was sort of emotionally invested in. They kept failing, and it was really bothering me. So I was thinking, I wonder what it would be like to make a game which I didn't really, like a game which I wouldn't instinctively want to make. I'm not very good at platforms, I'm not very good at like very fast games. Like what if you made an entire game where you had a very, very short amount of time to finish it? And that became 10-Second Ninja, and I started just so I could see how well I would handle a project which I had, it sounds so bad for people who are thinking of buying the game, but a game which I had no personal attachment to, a game which I wasn't emotionally invested in, a game which could just be a game. I'd already got over that hump where you're tired of the project and stuff, and I was still doing it because I didn't feel emotionally drained. I could focus on other things and get that experience from somewhere else. In all honesty, it's the perfect learning experience. I could send it to a tester and they could say, I really like this, 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 and this, but you have to fix this, this, and this. At that point, those are just jobs. It's not creative block or anything like that, it's just doing it. The Tortoise, like, even as a company in its own right, is completely different from anything relating to 10-Second Ninja. It's not about gaming games, it's about it's not about losing, it's not about overcoming a challenge or anything like that. It's about being inside a nice experience. So the focus isn't on the gameplay, it's on the art and the sound and the audio-visual experience, and the gameplay is just a hook to keep you in that when there's not a lot going on. We're releasing a game hopefully the end of October, early November, called Castles in the Sky, which is basically like a pixel art storybook that you can interact with and like journey through. It's about story, it's about art, it's about sound. That sort of sums up how different it is from 10-Second Ninja. I mean, 10-Second Ninja is all about the gameplay, and Tortoise stuff is about everything else. 10-Second Ninja is for other people, Tortoise is for me. Like, the fact is, if I gave a Tortoise game to other people and they didn't like it, it would make me feel bad personally, because it would be like they were saying they don't like me. But it's not a game that I made to impress other people. 10-Second Ninja is something that other people should buy and enjoy, and I hope they have a great time with, and that's the intention, is that other people have a great time with it. But it's completely different with the Tortoise. The Tortoise is for me.